Welcome, everybody. We're going to start the hearing. Good evening. Tonight is Tuesday, June 25th, my sister's birthday. I don't know how old she is, but she's younger than me. It's about 7 o'clock. We're here in Town Hall at room 206. Tonight we have a public hearing with a few applications and then a general meeting. So we can get right into it. The first item on the agenda is coastal site plan review number 381, flood damage prevention application number 446, PL 24-20-85, 0 LNPR LLC at 4 Great Island Road. The proposal is to renovate the existing residential structure on the property, remove several accessory structures, and construct residential additions at the basement level, including an attached garage and terraces, construct a new pool, water feature, courtyard, new accessways, retaining walls, and landscaping improvements, and to perform related site development activities within regulated areas. The 6.01 plus or minus acre subject property is located on the south side of Great Island Road at the southeastern corner formed by its intersection with Long Neck Point Road and is shown on Assessor's map number 58 as lot 1-J in the R1 residential zone. Gentlemen, what do we got? This is effectively known as the barn.
This is known as the barn. This is a very large property next to the town-owned Great Island property. The application was submitted in conformance with sections 810 and 820 of the Darien Zoning Regulations under a coastal site plan and flood damage prevention regulations. The application was referred out to Joe Canis of Ty and Bond. Mr. Canis submitted comments for the record dated June 21st. The applicant's engineer from Kasudas Engineering submitted comments and revised plans in response to Mr. Canis's comments dated March 24th. And today we received correspondence via email from Mr. Canis that he was endorsing the project based on what was submitted by the applicant. The application was also referred out to the building department. Building official Mike Beatty submitted comments for the record dated June 20th. Is also referred out to Connecticut Deep, and that agency submitted comments for the record on June 21st. So Steve, you're correct. The application is essentially to make major renovations to the existing barn on the property, to demo several accessory buildings, and to improve the site, develop it as a residential property. Attorney Leonard Brayman is here this evening with his team to present the application and answer any questions that you may have.
Fantastic. You go by Lenny or Leonard?
Lenny's fine, Mr. Chair.
I thought so. Nice to see you again, Lenny.
Good to see you.
Seen you a lot lately in the papers also.
Thank you, sir. Well, we're pleased
Welcome.
Thank you. We're pleased to be here tonight. My name is Lenny Brayman. I'm with the law firm of Wofsy Rosen, Kwesian Kuryansky in Stanford. We represent 0 LNPR LLC, owner of the subdivision at 0 and Long Neck Point Road, including the property that we're discussing now at 4 Great Island Road. And thank you to members of the commission and staff for that introduction and for having a public hearing tonight. With me this evening are my colleague Julie Ludwig, Christina Stewart, the owner's representative, Dave LaPierre, Melanie Smith, and Garrett Rowe from Cardello, the architects, Wes Stout, our landscape architect, Evan Bauer from the Kasudas office, the engineer that was mentioned, Tom Ryder from Lantec, and also with us is Steve Kornudik, our construction manager. So we have quite a team here, and if there's anything that I can't answer that you ask me, I'll phone a friend. So the CAM standard, the Coastal Site Plan Review Standard, is familiar to this commission and well known. It's whether there's any potential adverse impact of the proposed project on coastal resources or future water-dependent development, and if so, whether those impacts are acceptable. Here, the project will have no adverse impact on coastal resources whatsoever, and that's what the state DEEP concluded already in their comments. In fact, we're going to be protecting and enhancing coastal resources through the installation of a brand new stormwater management system that you'll hear a little bit more about from our engineer, which will treat runoff prior to discharge and therefore improve stormwater quality into the coastal resources versus existing conditions where there's no stormwater management to speak of. And the property does lie partially in AE and B flood zone. There is no work whatsoever taking place in the flood zone, no construction work, and there is no construction work being performed within 50 feet of any inland or tidal wetlands. We did provide the required notice by mail to neighbors, most of which are entirely properties owned by this applicant or by the town of Darien. We did newspaper notice as well. We've received no notifications of any concerns of any neighbors, nor are we aware of any written public comment that was submitted at all. About 2 weeks ago, we did have an opportunity to meet right here with the first selectman and the former first selectwoman, Margaret McNally, who's obviously now the chair of the Great Island Advisory Committee. We're pleased to say that as part of that important neighbor outreach, we answered all the questions and addressed all the issues that were raised in that meeting, which staff was present and staff facilitated. So we're trying to be good neighbors. And in terms of the project background, I'll be brief, and then we'll get to the design team who can tell you a little bit more about it and answer your questions. As was said by the chair, the project site is a little more than 6 acres, and it's this lot here, just to the east of Long Neck Point Road and south of Great Island Road. It's known as Lot 14 among the subdivision lots, and it has the street address for Great Island Road and various other lot names and parcel names. It does contain an existing, It does contain an existing residential structure built in about 1910, prior to the 1925 adoption of zoning. And it has various outbuildings. These were solidly constructed, but some, especially the outbuildings, have fallen into some disrepair. So, as you can tell, the structure is lawfully non-conforming as to the number of stories and the height. The project seeks to extensively renovate the existing residential structure, and the chair accurately described the renovations that we're proposing. And of course, we have associated stormwater improvement, some grading, landscaping improvements, which you'll hear about as well, new driveway and access ways. Simply because this property falls within the coastal boundary, in other words, 1,000 feet from the coastal jurisdiction line, it requires CAM, or coastal site plan approval. We've gotten significant feedback on this project, both before and after submitting to your commission, and even before the owner purchased this property. We wanted to speak with the town, have an interactive process where we would propose ideas about what might be done with the property and make sure that it was consistent with the town's ultimate use of the adjoining property at Great Island. As you heard, we got favorable comments from our application on our application from DEEP, but also from Ty and Bond. They were helpful, constructive comments, in response to which we slightly updated the site plan and the drainage report, obviously to Mr. Canis's satisfaction, which he confirmed today by email. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Dave LaPierre from Cordello to talk about the...
Could I just ask you some threshold questions?
Of course.
Was the association notified? Is this a member of the association?
We are the controlling member of the association, yes, and the properties that...
Because this is one of them's a carve out of the association. Is this one of them? One or a couple of the subdivision lots are carve out of the association. So what I'm asking is, were the other people in the association notified?
The short answer is yes. And then I should clarify that...
Two questions.
And so the screening application was originally made on behalf of Zero LNPR LLC and the association, so we were co-applicants. Then, as we'll discuss in that application, the portion of that project, the screening project on Open Space B was withdrawn, so therefore we're just proceeding as Zero LNPR LLC.
Okay, you still didn't answer the question. Is this property part of the association?
No, it is, we are a member of the association.
Okay, so the answer is yes?
Yes,
Okay, then the second was everybody in the association notified?
yes.
Okay, including the other people that are across the street that are not on that side of on that point?
Yes.
Okay, great. Then the other thing, is this, you're calling it a residential structure today? I thought it was always known as a barn.
It's affectionately known as the barn, but it has a dwelling. It has sleeping quarters. It has kitchen. So it
So
was.
the majority of it is a residential structure and the rest of it's a barn, or is it vice versa?
It is a residential structure that has a barn that did have animals and agricultural use, but it's a residence.
Okay. Have you been in the building? I've never been.
I did not go in the building, but I did see, you could see the outbuilding in the background to the left there, that it was some kind of outbuilding. And Dave LaPierre was kind enough to give me a tour of various outbuildings that were used for animals and animal-related stuff, storing of food and things. One of the rooms that I did see that was, they were kind enough to show me was, what would you call it, where they process chickens, kind of back in the old days. But yes, it's basically a very large single-family residence that was used, I'll call it as a farm.
When's the last time somebody lived in the building?
I believe that there were people who were living there who worked there up until recently. The exact date I can't tell you.
Okay. I've lived in town for 21 years. I've never seen anyone living in it, but that doesn't mean they weren't there. Yeah. I mean, I just want to make sure it's an application, it's a big application. I want to make sure it's not a conversion. If it is a conversion from a barn with animals and cows and horses and chickens,
Yeah,
I want to make sure that's like.
from what I saw, there were no, in that building, and again, Dave and the team would know better than me, animals may have been in the outbuildings, but unlikely to be in this building. I
Okay.
think this was more for the people who watch the animals, take care of the animals,
That's
but they would know better.
very
than me.
surprising to me. We'll get that to the architect. Okay.
If I can
Go
just,
right ahead.
the old story I recall was that these used to be taxed as a farm,
Correct.
and there was a lot less tax, of course. Has it recently been taxed as a farm or a residence?
So I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Okay.
Maybe we can find out.
I mean, I just want to be full disclosure. If it's a barn, it's a barn. If it's going to be converted from a barn with cows to, and one of these architects will be able to tell me because I can find out if there's a kitchen in there or a bathroom in there. If it's being converted, it's being converted. It doesn't matter. I just want to be, transparent and not say it's a residential structure. I've never seen, how big is it? How many square feet is this thing?
Yeah, sure.
I asked Dave LaPierre from Cardello's Architects is here because we talked about the size and the various rooms, and so we kind of anticipated that question.
Yeah.
So.
So Dave LaPierre from Cardello Architects.
Welcome, sir.
So the total structure right now is about 20,000 square feet. That's the main building that you're calling the barn. It's big. And there is a garage aspect of that. There are some buildings that are actually, Len actually called that an accessory structure. It's actually attached. There's a garage that connects that building to the main building. There is a kitchen, there is a bathroom, there are sleeping quarters, there's evidence there was actually a bed in it when it was purchased. There are side tables, lamps, so someone, a caretaker most likely, was staying in the building at some time. How long ago that was, I can't really answer that, but.
It's not Mr. Ziegler's house, correct?
No.
Okay.
Not to my
It's
knowledge.
the staff live there, or the farm hands live there?
Farmhand, I'm assuming. The conditions of the areas that were that I'm calling a kitchen, a bathroom, were pretty rustic.
The big open space, were there animals in it?
So a portion of the lower level of the barn, there's almost a milking area, so they wouldn't stay in that portion of the building.
They'd
They would
bring
go
them in.
They would get milked and then brought back out. There was a lean-to building that you can see from Long Neck, the back side of it, that
But the
runs
main,
parallel.
but the main structure in the big open area.
It's actually stored hay.
So, yes, but
there's-
people weren't living in there.
So
That-
yes, they were. There was a room, two rooms actually, in that area where there was a pantry, a bathroom, a kitchen, and a sleeping area, 2 different locations inside the building. And then a third is the building that we just talked about being an accessory structure, which was actually attached, which could also be considered, a second kitchen. But we're not going for 2 kitchens, just so you're aware.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yep.
If it's a barn, it's a barn.
Understood.
I mean, it's been on many farms in my career, and it's a barn for animals and hay, and there's 2 little dinky bathrooms, or 1 little dinky bathroom and 2 little rooms for people to sleep.
So our discussions to date with Jeremy, we started this conversation very early on. We've always talked about it as a residential structure. It's in a residential zone. It does have farm characteristics, but it is a residential structure.
Okay. It's a 20,000 square foot residential structure.
Correct.
Okay. You're sticking with that,
I am. You want to see some more?
and your lawyer's sticking with that too. It's a little surprising, but it's news to me.
Okay. So, like I said, the actual building itself is about 20,000 square feet. We are currently, the footprint of the house, which was a question that Jeremy had asked me early on, we're actually increasing the coverage by about less than 1%. It's currently 4.8%. It's going to 5.7%. Jeremy had also asked me if I could speak a bit to what we intend to do with the building. And we absolutely recognize the iconic nature of this building. We've spent quite a bit of time discussing what impacts the town may see to this building and react to. We're very, very conscientious to maintain that look. So we plan on maintaining the colors, so that iconic kind of orangey red roof. The tower structure is going to remain completely intact. The building clapboard will remain same dimension and size, general color, but a different material to be a little bit more maintenance friendly. So we've really tried to preserve that aspect of it. We are actually intending to reduce some of the nonconformities with regard to the building height and stories. We are doing this by doing some regrading around the property, less than 1 foot adjustment of average grade. The current basement is counted as a story. That slight amount of adjustment with the grades is actually taking the basement area out of being a story. It will go from a 3-story to a 2-story, that main body of the building. And the tower, because the basement is coming out and we're actually removing one of the platforms within the tower, will go from a 5-story structure to a 3-story structure. So we're intending on keeping all the openings within the tower, which is very iconic. We're also looking at the general look of the building. As you can see, the comparison between the existing photo and the rendering, which is next to it. The 2 sides that face the public streets are essentially maintaining all of the characteristics of what is there now. We are going to be opening up the south side and the east side of the building a bit to take advantage of the water view.
Can you point to that, see which one's south and east?
So south is this way.
Okay.
So this side here. North is the tower side. West, east.
Yep. So the height regulations have to do with stories and number of feet.
Right.
So obviously you're not changing the number of.
Right. Dave and I have had many conversations. You have a building that predates zoning, so it's non-conforming in terms of both, as Dave acknowledged, stories and height. So Dave had to be cautious when doing his redesign to not inadvertently increase the building height as calculated. So he's had to make a number of adjustments. The dormers had to be carefully drawn so as not to increase anything. The turret couldn't really be changed because he had to be cautious. So it's
Yeah,
been many months of work.
Yeah, so we spent a fair amount of time reviewing those aspects of it, because obviously it's going to be under scrutiny, this type of a building. So we were very careful and reviewed all those aspects, the average grade, height, stories, adjustments that we are making to the dormers for alignments or head heights are all reductions actually in nonconformity. So we've been very careful with that.
Did they have to go to ZBA at all?
No, everything complies with the regulations. They would not need to go to the Architectural Review Board because it's a single-family residence.
You're sticking with that too, huh?
That's what it is. And you got the floor plan, single-family residence.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's also worth noting that it is on a 6-acre parcel. So
Understood.
it's
There's
there's
no coverage issues, there's no setback
yeah, it's a
issues.
massive piece of property. The part that we're here to talk about today is really the CAM application and its effects on the site. The architectural portion of it, I think we're just discussing more or less, as a courtesy to let people know that we're not messing with this iconic structure. So I think, Len, you can tell me whether you want me to get more into any other aspect of the architectural.
If the commission has questions for Mr. LaHare.
Some of the typical questions we ask is how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms?
Yep, so it's going to be 3 bedrooms, 4 full bathrooms, 4 half bathrooms.
4 full and 4 half?
Correct,
Okay. Dining room, living room, weight room?
correct.
Okay. What do you call it? Country kitchen?
It's going to have a full-blown kitchen, yeah.
Okay. And then how many stories or levels of residence of usable space? In the business, you call it air-conditioned space.
So according to the regulations or
According
usable
to
space?
According to life.
Use,
Yes.
3.
3 stories of air-conditioned space.
Yeah, it's going to have basement, first floor, second floor.
Okay. And what's going to be in the basement?
There's some recreation spaces in the basement, 50% of the basement of which will be finished space, and the rest of it will be storage mechanical.
Okay. So it lands up being 2.5 stories, right?
2,
Plus the basement ahead.
doesn't count as a story technically,
Right.
but
So yes, it would comply with the regulations, which allow 2 stories, 2 full stories, and allowing 50% of the basement to be finished.
Okay, what else?
We got the landscape architect here. Talk about.
Any questions for the main architect from you guys?
Is there an increase or a decrease in impervious
Yeah,
surface? Because it's
the
at
deep
different,
comments.
yeah.
yeah, I mean,
We can,
That was my
coverage-wise,
question too.
we can speak to that first. Yeah, so we can have Edmund Bauer come up. Go into a full presentation at this point.
Sure.
I mean, do we have the lot coverage calculation now? That would be
Right, the coverage, but as Jamie noted, there's going to be some increase in driveways. And so the engineers here, we've done the calculations and the stormwater analysis, et cetera.
Good evening. My name is Avon Bauer. I'm a project engineer with Crucidis Engineering out of Fairfield, Connecticut.
Welcome, sir.
And thank you. Just a little background on the property. So there's 2 existing curb cuts that we are actually continuing to utilize for the new circular driveway. The curb cuts can kind of be seen with these hatched areas here, where we're proposing a mud tracking pad just to, excuse me, avoid adding any adverse impact to the roadway. There's a pretty significant tidal and inland wetland on the property. This line here is the 100-year floodplain, of which we're not having any activity to do inside that area. And then there's a small portion of inland wetlands and a pretty significant tidal wetland that runs the length of most of the eastern side of the property. Those tidal and inland wetlands total 21,503 square feet, and they're associated with the Golder Cove, which is a tidal place off Long Island Sound. All under the existing conditions, all runoff from the subject site currently runs untreated almost directly into the tidal waters, and there's no stormwater systems that exist to our knowledge. That there are a couple catch basins, but they don't seem to have anywhere that we know they're going. They could be going directly into the water for all we know. So yeah, the owners are proposing to kind of restructure a lot of the property, reconstruct the existing dwelling on the inside only with the demolition of some of the accessory structures on the outside. One of these features is a green roof that's going to propose that is for a back out area for the parking, which actually wouldn't count as any impervious area because it's got quite a few feet of soil on top of it. It's going to be planted and almost look like just a sloping downhill coming down from the southwest side of the property where there is a bit of a knoll. The total amount of excavation and fill will net about 130 cubic yards to be removed from the subject property. So any fill that's taken out for any of these buildings will be dispersed, and then it will be dispersed on site, and then anything additional will be taken off site and disposed of legally. So there won't be any need to bring in any kind of fill material for this project. The question you guys were hoping to get answered was the overall impervious area. So what the surveyor's plan shows is just the building coverage for zoning purposes, but the total impervious surface area on site is 34,602 square feet. The proposed is 33,250 square feet, which gives us a net reduction of 1,352 square feet.
In terms of percentages, what is that?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but it's a very...
6 acres times 43,560 divided by something.
Yeah, it would be probably a reduction
2%.
of about...
2%, right?
Yeah, it's pretty significant. And the reason why Deep had some questions in regards to our report versus our CAM application. So the way that Darien stormwater management practices are involved, we're not allowed to take credit for any existing impervious surface that we're removing. So for the drainage analysis, we had to start as what's called a fresh meadow approach. So anything being removed is counted as lawn. So on our drainage report, it would show an increase in impervious surface, when in reality, we're actually making a reduction and an improvement in that case. We're proposing 2 stormwater detention systems. That's these right here, to collect the runoff from the existing residence that's being renovated, as well as the majority of the accessory structures and the entirety of the driveway up to the points that it doesn't pitch back to the road.
Do that again, the 2 that are next to each other?
Yeah, so there's 2
On top of each other. One,
right
2.
here.
Yep.
Yep, so there's catch basins sprawled throughout the driveway and the accessway that come down on the east side of the property, and some yard drains inside the landscape pool area. And that's going to just kind of collect everything and just bring it down. Those systems were designed to detain the water quality volume for 1 inch of runoff from all the new impervious surfaces that are going to each individual piece. Mm-hmm. And one of the comments Joe Canis had, you'll see there's a slight difference in what we call DB1, the first drainage system. We shifted it slightly to preserve a cherry tree that he had made comment that we might destroy with any kind of activity. So we shifted it away to help preserve that natural landscape buffer.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
The cherry tree, make George Washington happy, and Wes happy.
And thank Joe.
So yeah, and then in our CAM report, we identified quite a few coastal resources, the general resources, which applies to all projects, the coastal hazard areas, which, as I mentioned, we're not making any impact into, the coastal waters, intertidal flats, shorelands, and tidal wetlands. We're not doing any activity that would create any adverse impact there. And in fact, with the addition of the stormwater quality, the water that gets into those tidal areas is actually going to be improved as opposed to what is existing right now, where there is no treatment whatsoever.
So you're going to treat it before it goes into Ziegler's
Correct,
Road?
yeah. It's going to infiltrate into the suitable soils, and anything that overflows will have at least detained the first inch before it comes out of a yard drain that will naturally, gently overland flow back into the tidal areas.
Okay.
In addition to those, we have some pretty significant sediment and erosion control measures. Along the entire eastern side of the driveway and anywhere else that we're doing any activity, we have a double row silt fence. That was one of Joe Canis's comments as well, is to go from a single row to a double row, just to ensure that nothing happens should one row go down. We also have 2 or 3 different stockpile areas that will also be protected with silt fencing around them. And as I mentioned, the 2 drainage systems really are going to help provide water quality in the case that there is none now. So it really helps with that. And yeah, I'm here to answer any additional questions should you have any, and I thank you for your time.
Did you guys do a phase 1 on this?
No, I don't believe we did.
Okay. Do you have to if you're taking away 130 cubic yards of dirt?
No, usually, I don't believe so.
We don't have to test the soil?
It's
Because
usually
there's
the
a-
concern is
that's
when the
probably
material's
the other
coming
side.
in, because you
I'm
want, sorry, it's usually the concern with material being moved like that is when it's coming into the site, because you want to know what's being implemented. But we're actually taking this away. So it's going to be disposed of in any legal manner that needed to be done.
Okay.
I'm the owner's rep, and before we purchased the property, we did a.
You have to come to the podium.
Okay.
Just introduce yourself.
I'm Christina Stewart, I represent the owner, and,
Fantastic, welcome.
thank you, and we did a phase 1 and phase 2 before we purchased the property.
Okay. So
So,
is there any material here that has to get removed? that's
no,
detrimental?
everything came out clean.
Okay.
Yep.
But then why'd you do it phase 2?
It was just part of the purchase, we just wanted to have everything, make sure that everything was clean before we did purchase,
Okay.
given the issues on Great Island.
Okay, thank you. My other question is, we're talking about demoing stuff and removing buildings, like the one dwelling that's on your survey. It's on the other one. PSTS? Yeah.
The one down here that
Right.
partially in there.
Can you just identify what's being demolished and getting rid of?
Yeah, I believe Lenny and, yeah, these guys would be able to.
Do you have a different, do you have this plan, the PSTS?
The survey?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can pull that up.
because that shows the existing conditions, right? So we know what's going away and then what's gonna stay.
Yep, there you go. And so this is the existing conditions, Mr. Chair. If I'm not mistaken.
So,
16, 20, 24.
is this the plan that you're after?
That's what I'm staring at, yeah.
Okay. So this kind of lean-to building over here on the side that you see?
Yep, it says building remaining.
Prepares, this, that runs parallel to Long Neck. That
Yep.
building will be coming down.
It says, it's marked building remains.
Remains, as in the remains of a building.
The remains of the
Sorry. Yeah.
Nice, okay, that's out.
There's the shed building that you see right here,
Yep, got it.
the garage building that you see right here,
That the garage is gone, but it's gonna be replaced with new construction, right?
correct?
Okay,
The dwelling you see here,
this is the huge dwelling. Okay.
and this, so those buildings there are being removed in their entirety. This building, we're actually removing all the framing and leaving the foundation.
Okay,
So we had conversations with Rick Talamelli from EPC about that and the amount of disturbance that would cause. It's actually within the AE 14 floodline, so we're actually leaving the foundation in place, filling it in.
Okay.
That's more of a safety concern for us right now. So we'll be filling in that foundation and capping it.
okay.
So those are the structures that are being removed.
So the garage and the dwelling next to the garage, you're calling those separate buildings? That's what, because you said, I mean, the notice says we're removing buildings, right?
Yeah, they're connected, so this garage dwelling that they're being called out are actually connected to the main
Correct,
structure.
right.
So these are coming down. The connection is actually between the garage and the basement area. This is actually subterranean, this area right here.
That says concrete ramp, right?
Yep, underneath that, there's actually a space, and there's a connection between the space underneath that ramp and the garage.
Somebody live under there?
No, that was actually mechanical stuff and some
Okay.
storage.
So that ramp's coming out too?
Yes,
Okay.
it's gonna be replaced with another.
So it's
structure.
basically the entire south wing of the building is going away.
Correct.
So you're calling it 1, 2, 3, 4, you're calling 5 buildings are going away?
Correct.
Which I call it 2, but okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then the new stuff is basically going in that same spot.
Correct.
Okay. Good. Any other questions for this one so far? We're good? Good? Okay.
So our last presenter is Wes Stout with the landscape architecture for this site.
This is a frequent flyer in the town of Darien.
Good to see you guys.
Welcome.
Thank you, Lynn. I
Really,
think he's pulling up my pretty plan here.
real quick,
Sure.
Lenny, on the building that's in the flood zone, you're keeping the whole foundation of the whole structure or only the structure that's in the flood zone?
I believe we're keeping the entire foundation.
The entirety,
So
yeah.
it's to minimize the disturbance.
Right, so you're not just keeping the little bit in the flood
No.
zone, the whole L? Okay.
Correct. Thank you.
Why did Rich care about this?
Well, one of the issues is it's half above grade, half at grade, so there was no easy way to remove it without trying to figure out, okay, are we gonna end up going into the wetlands? And I think when we were out there, you're like, it'd be just a good place to put out an Adirondack chair, look out over the wetlands, or just hang out without worrying about wetland disturbance. So I think for the time being, just leave it as is, just a place you can just sit and read a book or watch wildlife.
Yeah, they better save a lot of money doing that too.
Yeah, because then, it's been there for a long time, you'd have to dig down, figure out how to regrade it appropriately, so.
Makes sense. Good. Welcome, Wes.
Good evening. Wes Stout, Wesley Stout Associates, landscape architect and planner, offices in New Canaan, but we do a lot of work in Darien, love this town. This is a fun project, and as a landscape architect, when we have an opportunity for a significant property like this, I always start with sort of a guiding principle. And in this case, it's respect what's out there and work with that and make it almost a seamless transition. So I think you saw from the renderings, and I'll walk you through the site plan a little bit, but really making every effort just to make this sort of a seamless integration, but improvement. It's a little rough around the edges right now, admittedly, and you've seen some of the discussion in the pictures and whatnot, but it'll be a wonderful conversion. It sets up beautifully, to be just a wonderful, simple barn residence in the field. So very simple things we've done to convert it from what it is today to a new living space. Or we're improving the loop drive that you see there. As part of that loop drive, you'll see a couple X's. There are some remnant apple trees. We're actually going to probably remove all or most of those. We've shown all of them here, but we have sourced, and I've done it before, we can get mature orchard trees. So this won't be a little 2-inch kelp. We'll put real orchard trees in there, so we'll get the grid back and have a wonderful new setting for that. We're extending the farm road. It does sort of act like a farm and feels like a farm when you're out there. It's really pretty magical. So off of that loop drive, there's sort of a simple, you can see it here, what we call the farm road, which is more or less some paths and some gravel and some asphalt right now, but we're just going to do a simple 2-lane grass strip in the middle, run through the farm sort of thing that links up to the property beyond. So basically just putting a refresh on that. There's a cool central courtyard, which is a very strong element within this, and that becomes sort of a garden. The client really wants sort of a wonderful, almost European, simple garden courtyard in there. So we're going to do gravel and plants, and everything's going to be very sort of natural materials and whatnot. It's going to be beautiful. There's a small entry drive plaza up there to let people know that they're invited to come to the tower. There's very little front door identity right now. There's a sense of the tower, but because of this old agricultural ramp in the front, up to the front and whatnot, it's not engaging or inviting sort of arrival. So we're going to enhance that.
Where's the tower on that?
Tower's right here in the corner.
Okay.
Anchors is going. There's that farm ramp. Every farm had ramps in and out because they didn't want to lift anything. They rolled everything. So that's why there's that one on the back as well, 2 ramps. And that's really about it. We're proposing a new paddock. You see in the front here with a paddock, probably a black paddock fence around it. which is really just sort of a symbol, I think, of a farm. Whether there's an occasional animal in there or two, we're not sure yet. We'll see what happens. But I think as a vestige of the farm, that's what we're trying to do there. And that's really about it. This isn't going to be rhododendron, azalea, and boxwood, and arborvitaes. It's going to be a beautiful barn set in the field. A few new enhancement plantings, mostly in the courtyard. Otherwise, we're keeping the trees and the ambiance that you see there today.
And can you just go over the one thing that's called, I think it's called proposed terrace with the basement below? Is that a parking garage? That's a parking garage?
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, that whole section.
this right. The way this works, this driveway is coming in here, goes underneath, and then this is basically the new garage structure, subterranean.
Okay.
And then above part of that, it will be a terrace that'll spill out from the south end of the barn, as you saw, right? It'll spill out from here. And then the far side of it, over top of the driveway into the garage, will be a green roof. So magically, this whole sort of front green meadow will actually just roll down here and roll right over this. And there's this beautiful old farm tree here.
Do you have these two plans?
The architectural
Renderings?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
They're not that great.
Excuse me.
It's A2, it's A2.5 and A2.6?
Might need you, Dave.
Yep.
Did you find them online?
The renderings? They were there.
I didn't see
A
that.
2.5 and 2.6, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, please. That shows that little two-lane road you're talking about, and the farm road.
Yeah, there you go. You see the farm road traversing left to right, correct? And then there's a wall there to hold the grade and everything below. Then you're in the 100-foot setback and beyond. So we're not touching anything within the 100 feet of the mean high water.
So that big window that we're staring at?
Yes.
That faces
That's
due east towards the water.
correct. That's not, you won't see that from
That's
Long
the
Neck
back
Point
side.
Road. Correct.
Okay.
And then the driveway, as I mentioned, is coming around here, underground, and that's how we have this field is wrapping right down over top of the garage.
So everything dead ends at that garage?
Yes. It's at the lower basement level.
So you cut around it, so the driveway's
It
over.
dead ends, the green roof lets us, if we didn't have the green roof over it, the driveway would be open to the sky,
Right?
right? And you would look off at that end of the building and look into a vault or a hole, right? Because the driveway would be a story below. So to make it seamless, like I said, we've actually, that part of that becomes a terrace and part of it becomes a green roof. Like we do a bunch of rooftop stuff. That's the way things are done. And, yeah, it's beautiful. We won't look at the driveway and the hole in the ground.
So where the Caltex are, is that part of the driveway? Do you drive cars over there?
Yeah, I'm sure the driveway, yeah.
The drive goes like this, right?
But yeah, the driveway and the house are all tied in here.
Right. So the driveway gets picked up through catch basins that will run along that retaining wall that's.
Put it on the.
Yeah. So the catch basins would run kind of seamlessly in the grass. There'd be, I think, 4 of them throughout. That would be directed, because everything's pitching down away towards the tidal wetlands, the tidal area.
So how's my car get in there?
So your car's gonna come down through here, and then this pathway here goes around this terrace, and around the back of that terrace, that's where the green roof sits, is right up back over here.
Do you pull a U-turn to get into the green room, or do you make a right-hand turn to get into?
You make a right-hand turn.
So the entrance will be underneath the green roof.
Correct.
You make a right into the green roof.
I just don't see the driveway going in front of the house
There you
on
go.
the plans at all.
So here's slightly rotated. So here's your farm road.
here.
Here's the driveway going in,
No, it isn't.
Oh, there is.
and there's the green roof over the driveway, and then the garage is basically,
Garage is
Bang it
underneath the
right.
terrace.
and you don't really drive it, it's like a parking lot driveway, and then the parking's
But
on the
that
right side.
strip that we're looking at, that you make a right into the garage, you can't drive straight and go out.
No.
You have to go all the way around.
It's like, it's a 3-car parking garage.
Yeah. But it doesn't connect to the driveway right on the other side. That stone
No,
entry
there-
pavement
no,
court.
No, it does not connect.
You come in here, drive around the back of the building, turn in, and pull in underneath.
Right. So on the back of that structure, there's no
No.
path to drive back out.
That's
to
all
a loop.
grass.
'Cause that
That's
that
why-
doesn't look like this at all. I mean, I've been staring at the plan for years. It doesn't look.
Which plan are you referring to? Which one did you just?
Site development plan?
Well, that's why we got a color plan. I know engineering
I know,
drawings would be,
it's more the technical side.
that's all the pipes and the,
Right.
If you want to pull that up, I can actually run through it quickly to show you.
It looks like here it just ends.
Correct, I know.
You end the two strip here, but there's nothing that shows any kind of connector. Because
Because
essentially.
you're coming in, I think you're coming in like that.
Yep.
So there's no driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, if you look at this, the pool, the pool's here.
No,
Oh,
no, this
maybe-
is the pool, that's the reflector.
So,
That's the reflector.
Right, now you go. So this whole thing is underground.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that
elevated
same track
something.
that I just showed you around the rendering starts here, runs around the back side of the building, you turn in, go under the roof and into the garage.
Okay.
where it says proposed terrace with garage below, that's the actual parking area of the garage. The green roof itself is meant to be the back out and back in area for the garage.
Now point to the green room.
That's this right here, proposed green roof with garage below.
Now what's the thing behind it? Above it?
That's,
Yeah.
that's where the actual parking for the garage itself is.
Okay. Proposed terrace below garage.
Yeah, so there's like a patio above the garage, which the back out area of the garage, above that is the green roof.
Then how much dirt are we taking out of this section that's there today? How deep are you digging it down?
There probably won't be a whole lot of disturbance because there are some existing structures in this area, but I would say the maximum depth would be maybe 10 feet at the high side. But a lot of that material is actually going to be
I get it.
reutilized through here to recreate the green roof. So it's basically a temporary disturbance.
So you're digging down 10 feet, so you're putting a retaining wall on the,
Yes.
I'm gonna call it the left-hand side.
Yes, yeah, as you're driving in on the left-hand side, there's a retaining wall. Top of wall is at about 26, the bottom of the wall is about 19 and a half, so 6.5 feet.
So there's a fence on top of that wall? Wait, do you need a fence on top of the wall? Because it's, but you said the top, you said 26 and 19, that's 7, right?
Yeah.
Don't you need a fence on top of that wall?
Yeah, you might need it, some kind of fence. They show stairs, you know, to get down.
How come on this drawing,
That's all this.
you have the driveway outlined,
Yep.
but after the farm road where you have the strips outlined, it just ends and it looks like there's nothing but grass between the end of the farm road and the garage.
Yeah, I think that could be answered here, but it's more of an
Oh, this
aesthetic
is it.
feel to that. It's a
You're talking-
continuation.
You're talking about this area?
How it, and, yeah.
Well, there's a driveway from there to the garage, but you don't
Correct,
have
yeah.
it shown on this diagram.
The
This
driveway
schematic.
is labeled proposed driveway, right?
Yeah, so that proposed driveway is gonna be made out of probably either gravel or asphalt, whatever. That hasn't fully been determined yet.
You see
So that's good, so the proposed driveway is at 26 elevation?
It's at 19 or 18 and a half elevation for the
So,
most part.
right, so it's in front of that curved retaining wall at the bottom of those stairs?
Correct, yeah, at the bottom of the stairs.
Right, so, but it's not displayed on this architectural drawing at
Oh,
all?
in the rendering?
No,
I'm not sure what you're pointing at.
I'm looking at the survey, there's no driveway here at all. Right, it ends here,
Yeah.
there's nothing.
He's looking at this.
That, I'm looking at right at yours. Go
Right.
to the end of the two lines of the farm road,
Right here.
then where is there any kind of driveway?
If you're driving in, it's to the right.
You drive down here, and you pull in here, right? There's nothing on over here.
Proposed driveway.
Proposed driveway on the wrong side of the retaining wall.
No, it's up, the driveway's on the low side of the retaining wall.
This is the low side of the retaining wall. You see this tree? We're trying to preserve this tree, and that's high.
Which is that tree?
The big
The
tree.
cherry tree.
Correct. Yeah. So this is all high, this retaining wall, this is the high side of the retaining wall, this is the low side of the retaining wall.
So
That
then-
allows you to drive in.
So you drive in, then how do you make so you drive in, underneath, and you have to make a
Correct.
right underneath?
Correct.
So underneath the green roof, that's
So
what I
that-
was saying, is the back out area for your driveway, so you would be, that's how you
Is
get
the
in and
green
out of the
roof
garage.
open on the side that's towards the bottom?
Correct, yeah, the green roof is open on this side, right, like facing this direction, from where the driveway is. You drive under the green roof and then turn right into the garage.
Yes, they want you to go in
So-
here and then in.
Correct. See, this is the driveway here. That's the driveway you're talking about, because the car is going this way.
Yeah.
You're going around this thing. All right, so now let's go back to this wall. When you're protecting the cherry tree, what's the difference between the top and the bottom of the wall?
6.5, 7 feet.
So my question is, don't we need a fence on top of that wall, Jeremy?
You might need a fence or railing, depends on what the building official looks at for that.
Okay. See what I'm talking about? It's this wall
Yep.
here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yep.
And so the most of the dirt is coming out of this section here.
A fair portion of it, yes. Yeah, the rest of it, we're trying to keep natural with the grade, but
No, I get it. I mean, you're putting in a subterranean garage, so to speak. That's the
Yeah.
newest, latest, greatest thing along that point. And you're doing the same thing. They got something going on there. I don't know what's inside this room, but the garage is way back here. But who knows? Okay. What else? I didn't see West Stat's plan in my package. I don't know if it doesn't exist.
We submitted his black and white landscape plan, but this is a color rendering that we just submitted to staff. It's the same plan, it's just in color.
When did you submit that plan?
That was today to staff, and we can file that record. We
Okay,
can
that's
put that on OpenGov.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what, I mean, I'm a paper guy, so I got this on Friday, so it wouldn't have been in there. Okay. All right, what else? Jamie, any questions so far?
No.
Right, you got your questions kind of sort of answered?
Just a little more on the, what you call it, farm driveway, something like that. I see in this rendering, it looks green with some gray stripes down it. But I also see on what is actually just the zoning location survey, but it's here, it says this is going to be proposed asphalt with oil and stone top driveway. What's that going to be? And how impervious will it be?
No, exactly. It will be,
Oh, this is the best thing.
it'll be an asphalt for stability. We're going to do the grass down the middle like a typical farm road. And then the asphalt will have oil and stone finish on top, so it'll look like a natural gravel driveway.
So the asphalt will be wide enough for a vehicle? So there'll be two?
Any farm, it's amazing, you get tree trucks come in, garbage, there's always trucks on anything. And particularly when you take a multi-acre farm like that, and there's always something going on like that. So yeah, it'll be fully accessible.
So, it's basically a two-lane driveway,
Yes.
and each lane will be big enough for a truck?
No, it's two pathways
Okay.
in the form of like an old farm road.
Okay.
You could, it's almost out there right
That's a
now.
tire track.
Yeah.
That's one tire,
Yeah.
your left-hand side of your BMW's on that, your right side of your BMW.
Yes, but what about my Ford F-150 or
It's the
something?
same.
So, it's designed to take cars, trucks of all sizes, so.
Okay, I get it. And that's part of the impervious calculation that we
Correct.
made?
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. You all done with all your presenters?
Yeah, unless there's any further questions, we respectfully ask that you approve this application.
Okay, let's open up to the general public first. Would anybody in the general public like to speak to this application? Look at that, you have all fans. No lights there. Okay. Anyone ask questions? Did we get anything on this, or did we miss anything?
Nope, as we acknowledged, Joe Canis gave his verbal okay. It's likely his formal written responses will come in the next day or two, Fred, you think?
Because
Yeah,
I didn't see one of those
probably
back and forth
tomorrow.
letters in it. Is there
Probably
one of those
tomorrow.
back and forth letters?
There is Joe reviewed the revised plan from Kasudas's office and verbally said everything was resolved, but he's probably going to be putting it in writing over the next day or two as a typical staff report.
Okay. Do you want to close the hearing?
I think we can close the hearing.
Okay. You're all good to close? Okay. And you're all done?
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
With that said or not said, I would entertain a motion to close. Jamie makes a motion, looking for a second. George makes a second. Okay, hearing's closed on that. Okay. Let me keep this now. Okay, let's go to our next application. Coastal Site Plan Review Number 380, PL 24-58, 0 LPNR LLC, Great Island Property Owners Association at 0 Long Neck Point Road and Open Space B. Proposal to implement various screening improvements along the boundaries of 0 Long Neck Point Road and Open Space B properties and to perform related site development activities within a regulated area. These improvements consist of a stone wall, perimeter fencing, and tree planting of new trees, shrubs, and grasses to distinguish between the public property of Great Island and the private property of 0 Long Neck Point Road. The subject properties are located on the northeastern and southeastern terminus of Great Island Road and shown on Assessor's map number 58 as lots B, 1D, and 1, is that 1-1?
1-I.
1-I in the R1 zone. General, what do we got?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Fred.
This application was submitted under conformance with Section 810 of the Darien Zoning Regulations under a coastal site plan section of the regulations. The application was referred out to Joe Canis of Ty and Bond. Mr. Canis submitted comments dated May 17th endorsing the project. The application was also referred out to Connecticut Deep. We received comments for the record from that agency on May 23rd. This is largely the same property and vicinity as what the commission just heard regarding 4 Great Island. The proposal is to essentially, create new landscaping, fencing, some walls to screen the property from the town property and other adjacent properties as well. Attorney Leonard Brayman is here this evening to present the application and answer any questions you may have.
Okay, great. Starting question, can I go out and look at this thing? I've never been to the property, that or the barn.
Sure.
So can we arrange that through staff someday?
Well, you'd have to leave the hearing open to do that, because you can't visit it after the hearing closes.
Look at you, a little technical.
Yeah. But, I mean,
We're
maybe the
gonna
pictures
close-
Lenny has would help better understand kind of where some of these plantings are going, because many of them, as you acknowledge, are adjacent to town property, both the driveway coming in from Rings End Road and near the existing cul-de-sac and along some of the tidal wetlands on the Great Island property.
Because has anyone been out to this property? Yeah, we got Goosehead. Okay. Okay.
Well, more than welcome to. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, and thank you to staff. Again, for the record, I'm Lenny Brayman with the law firm of Wofsy Rose and Kweskin and Koreansky. We represent 0 LNPR LLC, which owns a subdivision at 0 Long Neck Point Road, and the properties at lots 8 and 13, which are at issue in this screening application. And so the lot numbers are 6, 7, and 8, and we just discussed in the prior application lot 14, and then lot 13 is here. So it's really 8 and 13 that we're talking about with respect to coastal site plan approval. We're pleased to present this CAM application solely for screening improvements, as was described for the subdivision, along the boundary between our subdivision and what's become known as parcel 23A and the cul-de-sac, which are the town's access to the public property of Great Island. So we've already gone over the CAM standard, which is well known to you, and the only reason that this project is before you is because there's certain walls and fencing that are going to be within 100 feet of mean high water, so that triggers CAM. The project, as DEEP noted, as Ty and Bond concurred with, it will have no impact on coastal resources whatsoever, no negative impact, and that's consistent with our CAM report that you'll hear about from Mr. Tom Ryder. In fact, we're going to be, as with the prior application, which has the same landscape architect, Mr. Wes Stout, the idea is to enhance the natural landscape with contextual plantings, native plantings, aesthetically pleasing borders between the neighboring properties. And we've had an iterative process, again, with the town with respect to the screening. Before this applicant purchased the property, we went to the town with a proposed screening plan, and we discussed that with then First Selectwoman Monica McNally. Again, we met 2 weeks ago or so with Ms. McNally and with current First Selectman, went over those plans. It was discussed that the plans that we were here with before you today for screening were very much consistent with what we showed the town even before we bought this property and before the town purchased the cul-de-sac from the Zieglers. We also, prior to purchasing the property, we confirmed with Mr. Ginsberg and Mr. Talamelli that there was certain screening that we could do as of right that fell outside of any regulated area, outside of the CAM area, outside of any area regulated by EPC. So at the risk of causing some confusion, I wanted to draw a distinction between the screening that's as of right and the screening that we're asking for approval for. Essentially, if you look at the red lines on this as of right screening plan that we submitted in April, the red lines represent the 100-foot setback from mean high water on Mr. Stout's plan, and he'll go into more detail with you about the design. The green lines represent the setback from inland wetlands. Okay. So in November of 2023, we presented a plan to zoning staff and EPC staff that had walls, the same stone wall that's before you in this application, that had this stone wall entirely outside of any regulated area. And we confirmed that that could be constructed as of right. Similarly, where you have gaps in the red lines, then these are areas where we intend to do landscaping and plantings, contextual plantings, and walls and fences as of right. However, there is a requirement that we get your coastal site plan approval if we want to do anything within the red lines. And if we were to wish to do any screening within the green lines, we would require EPC approval. So again, just by way of background, this application originally had an EPC component where we had an application to do a living fence, which would have been wire mesh fence along the causeway that leads to Great Island on Open Space B, which is owned by the Great Island Property Owners Association, which was a co-applicant with us, and of which we are the supermajority member. That application got some preliminary feedback from EPC where they were concerned about the impact of that living fence. So in the spirit of being good neighbors, we withdrew that EPC application without prejudice, with the reservation of rights. We're pausing that portion of the project. The living fence is not before you. Just want to clarify that. So the only aspects of the project for which we're seeking approval are in the revised landscape set, which I will now turn over to Mr. Stout to talk about. But we're seeking approval for a stone wall slightly within the CAM, within the 100 feet of mean high water, seeking approval for fencing, perimeter fence within the CAM boundary, and seeking approval also for a small section of wire mesh fence that falls within the camp boundary. And one way of viewing this is with this exhibit, which I think, this is the one that I refer to most often, to zero in on what we're actually asking you to approve, which is this section of wall.
Which plan is that, Lenny?
This is the second page.
No, go to, what's the number? It's West Out Associates.
1.4.
West Out,
1.4.
West Out, BB 1.4.
Got it.
So in blue, you see the section of 3 foot by 3 foot stone wall, which we're seeking approval for, which falls within the CAM boundary. In orange, in yellow, you see the section of perimeter fence that falls within the CAM boundary for which we're seeking approval. And in orange, you see the section of wire mesh fence in the CAM area that we're seeking approval for. And then if you go to the next page of Mr. Stout's updated plan, dated May 17th, I believe, then you see details or representations of what these screening structures might look like. The perimeter fence is here, the stone wall is in the bottom left, and the wire mesh fence is in the bottom right. And I think it's important to note that the lots 8 and 13 that we're screening here are currently vacant land that are approved as buildable lots for the subdivision from 1980. I think at this point I'll turn it over to Mr. Stout.
Let me ask you a question first on 8
Sure.
and 13. As part of that application for 23A, you required curb cuts to that 23A.
Yes, and
So what are we doing with the curb cuts?
Yep, so I recall that, Mr. Chair. So at this time,
So you're putting a stump, you're putting a wall there and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 trees?
so actually, so that I make sure that I'm not back level on the current iteration of the plan, let me call up somebody from the design team to speak to the current status of curb cuts on 23A. I think, so Wes can speak to that.
The goal, of the plan as it stands right now is to create the curb cuts because we'll never be able to, it'll be very difficult to recreate them once Great Island Road is constructed. But the farm wall is going to go right through, and if and when they became driveways, they would break through the stone wall, rebuild it to that stretch, and use those curb cuts. So that's where the current plan is.
Okay, so the curb cuts are not depicted on your PP-1.0?
They're not part of our scope of work, that's correct.
But wouldn't you want to predict them so you can hold the police car holder for them later?
That we have done, yes.
So is that on a plan?
Not that's part of this application, no.
Well, I'm just trying to be transparent with everything, and now we're saying yes for curb cuts and no for curb cuts, either they're in or they're out.
So if I may, Mr. Chair.
Of course you can.
So on the application for 23A, at which I was present obviously and commented and gave favorable comment to on the town's application, there were curb cut locations that were proposed or tentative curb cut locations in that plan, and we reviewed those with our design team and we had no issue with those. So as Mr. Stout states, any curb cut work that's going to be done by the town is going to be done when it proceeds with that 23A work, which hopefully will be this fall. And we've been extensively coordinating with the town.
I understand that, but I want to have a plan that says either they're in or they're out. And this is showing that they're not there.
Yeah.
And they're never going to be there. Unless you come in, some years from now. So you argued for them now, but you didn't put them on the plan.
Because it's the town's Because it's the town's scope of work and the town's plan,
I
that's why we
understand
didn't
that,
include it.
But I'm gonna put a curb cut in there, when you're gonna put it's gonna be a curb cut to nowhere?
Well, I think we'd accept the condition of approval that we denote curb cuts on our site plan for the screening application. If
Yeah,
that-
but I just wanna have them on here, so I know where they're supposed to be.
I think we
I
can
mean,
do that.
you're the one that picked out the spot for them.
Correct, and the town proposed certain locations that we are
We moved.
fine with, and we, if you want as a condition of approval for us to add those to our plan so that they're set in stone, so to speak, I think that's a,
You got that?
So perfectly-
I'm just trying to make sure that
Yeah,
we're transparent on what we're doing.
I'll defer to staff, but I think that's a perfectly reasonable condition of approval.
Which side of the red line will they be on? Aren't they on the,
They are not within the red zone.
I didn't think so. Right. So they're really not within the
I understand that, but they're building a wall where curb cuts are supposed to be. It's just trying to be transparent, make sure everything is. Because we argued for curb cuts for at the last application, now all of a sudden that disappeared, so. I don't wanna have to put them in and then take them out and put them back in again. That doesn't make any sense,
Understood.
right? Okay. And then there should be is there an access point from whatever that lot is? Which one's this one? This one, I don't know if this is 8 or 13, to the cul-de-sac?
Yes, so,
13.
yeah, so,
13 is serviced from the cul-de-sac, our cul-de-sac road, not the Great Island cul-de-sac.
Okay, you have to show me what that means.
Yeah,
Lot-
it has
lot-
13 now.
lot 13
That one.
has.
Which one's 13?
This is 13 that I'm outlining with my cursor.
And that has
as-
frontage on.
On Great Island Road.
Correct.
And if you recall, the commission.
What's that one right there where your cursor is now?
This is 8.
That's 8.
Yes.
So how does 8, where's 8's curb cuts?
So, 8 will have a curb cut on 23A, but as you may recall, the commission in November 2023 also slightly revised the lot line so as to make sure that that lot 8 also had access on Great Island Road.
Correct, because there's that piece right there.
Correct.
So is that gonna be a curb cut too?
That,
Because that
whoever,
doesn't show up on here.
that shows, again, that's outside of the CAM zone, but yes.
I mean,
I really-
I'm just trying to be transparent. That's all.
Yeah.
You can hide the banana or not, I don't care.
I think that was all on the former plans that were part of the perimeter that was, administratively approved. We can remap those onto these, that's perfectly fine, we're happy to do that, But yes, to be clear, that lot was created or recrafted to be able to have the option to come off of the internal road versus Great Island Road.
Because right now, you're putting in a 36-inch high wall where that curb cut's supposed to be.
No, the wall, no, the wall's following the cul-de-sac. That's why that is flared that way.
Okay, all right, watch, I'll stop interrupting and you can explain.
I didn't have anything further unless there's further questions. Mr. Stout was going to
No, I
present
thought you
the.
were going to explain it.
Now, if you go back to the colored one, just as a
Yeah.
reference. Now to the other one. So I think Len covered it all very well. They're really just the three components that are part of this request within the 100-year setback from mean high water, and part of the wire fence is also within 50 feet, within 50 feet of within the 50-foot setback of the inland wetland. So that's why. And this whole, just to be very clear, and you said transparent, this whole element of this perimeter fencing has been reviewed, engaged, and crafted to be consistent with the town. We're not putting a 6-foot fence in the front, but I think it's pretty clear that there's a distinct need for some separation, identification of properties.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we've been generous in that we pushed the stone wall back so we could preserve the Norway maple, I'm sorry, the Norway spruce trees that are out there. We've done that on our side of the road. That wasn't possible on the other side of the road. And the town did add a sidewalk to that side of the drive after we gave them a 5-foot green strip. So I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work out, but they chose to fill that gap with a sidewalk. You know.
I like red bicycles.
Yeah. And, but I have some concern about its impact upon the trees, but, that's the town road will be there, so.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, so
I think that gets it, right? There is some planting, like you see, the green planting that's there. We highlighted that. Again, that's just part of the buffering and identification of the two properties and separation. We tried not to be hard line with everything. We wanted to be sort of a nice soft transition there. So there's some native plantings of cedar and bayberry to go with the fencing and really sort of make a nice sort of transition between the properties.
okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. The only other presenter we have on this application is Mr. Tom Ryder, the CAM expert, an ecologist with Landtech.
Good evening. I'm Tom Ryder, with senior ecologist with Landtech in Westport.
Welcome.
We've all discussed the three components to this. Basically, we have within the regulated area, we have a stone wall of about 195 feet. We have a perimeter fence, and then we have a wire mesh fence. The wire mesh fence and the perimeter fence, everything was compared to the policies set forth in the CAM manual. You're all familiar with the Coastal Management Act. We'll need to get into that, but we compared all the policies, but really what it comes down to is we're putting up a fence. We're putting up a mesh fence, and we're putting up a perimeter fence that was described earlier as kind of like a paddock area, like an old farm fence. Water can pass through that very easily. It doesn't have any issues with wetland impacts. It's not in the wetlands. It does not impede flow. There's no decrease in water quality. All the types of things that you would be looking for a CAM application. These are fairly inert, basically. Like I said, water can pass through them fairly easily. And the stone wall is outside of the flood zone. This was reviewed by DEP, and DEP, I don't actually often get to say this, but DEP approved it with no issues as well, had no comments. So I just wanted to put that out there because I don't get to often say that. But I do, if anybody has any questions, I'm here. Other than that, I think I'll turn it back over to Lenny.
Yeah, great, thank you, sir. Jamie, you good? Any questions? Adam?
No, not right now.
No? George?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I guess I would highlight the fact that we've been talking about screening here, but the reality is this is what, a 3-foot tall stone wall, right? And we're not trying to hide the property from the access way. It's not like you're putting up massive trees and all that, so we can't see into the farmland and all that at this
We're
point.
putting up 12 trees here.
Yeah, down there, but I mean around the cul-de-sac and coming up. You're basically not trying to hide that property. It's
Correct.
just, you're trying to delineate it. That really
Yes.
the bottom line? Yeah.
No, I couldn't have put it better.
Okay. I mean, later you could put in a bunch of tall trees, I guess, and whatnot, but that's not the plan for now.
This is the plan, that's before you.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no spot to put it here. This is where you're putting it. How tall are those 12 trees gonna be that's on the border of 23A?
That's Mr. Starr question.
And what are they on center?
The ones that are not part of this application
Correct. Yep.
and the other one, those would be native oak trees. Probably, I'd like to put in at least a 5 to 6 inch caliper tree, so they'd be probably 20, 22 feet tall.
On day one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a big, I think in answer to your question too, we want to do something that's respectful of the overall property, right? And we're not trying to put up a screen wall along, to hide this property from the experience of coming into Great Island. I think it's trying to be a very respectful neighbor and relationship of those two elements. So, yeah, there's some oak trees to create sort of a tree-lined driveway effect. The town could image that if they wish to on the other or not. They've seen our plans since they prepared theirs. And then you'll be able to drive in Great Island, the new town access way, and see the fields rolling along and the grass moving in the wind, and it's going to be beautiful.
And how close, what are they on center, those 12 trees?
They vary because we're trying to work around the Norway spruce trees that are out there, but I think they're maybe 30 feet on center, maybe 40.
No, can you go to PP 1.0? Make sure we're talking about the same thing.
PP 1.0 and then do 1. Oh, and this is the asset, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I got it.
People just don't like surprises. If you're putting in 12 trees, that's fine.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
those
that's,
are- those are about
you're
30
gonna
feet
fly.
on
You're
center.
not gonna see anything past that.
Those are about 30 feet on center.
So those are gonna be 30, there's 12 trees, 30 feet on center, 5-inch caliber, and 22 feet high. Okay. And that's above, and that wall is, how tall is that wall there? That's 3 inches, 36 inches?
Yeah, it'll be about 33 feet. Yeah, the terrain's rolling, which is another reason why we chose to do a stone wall versus a fence. It'll look better on the rolling terrain.
So it's effectively 22 feet on top of 3, so it's 25 feet tall.
Well, it's not a retaining wall. I'll be clear. This is just really a farm boundary wall, like
Okay.
they would have done for a stone wall. It's not a retaining wall that's filled behind.
No, I get it. I mean, retaining walls in our town are 4 feet high, and this is like 3.
Right. This is a frontage wall.
Okay, so you're driving in this way, and that's blocked.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Well,
100% blocked.
to say, blocked, okay, that's contrary to what I was getting at before, or what I learned. But how high up would this is real layman's talking here, but the foliage would begin? I mean, you're gonna have the trunk of the tree, and then when does the foliage begin?
Street trees are grown routinely so that the canopy starts around 8 feet. To be able to safely walk under them, and that's the way the nurseries tend to grow them.
Okay.
That's
We
what I
have
would
street
expect.
lights going in there too at the same time. You gotta make sure the street lights don't hit, because one's going in first. No.
I can't remember which side the streetlights are on, Wes.
I think
Same
they're on
side,
the far
side?
side. Yeah, I think they're on
The other side.
the opposite side,
Are they
as I
on the
remember.
opposite side?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but
I thought there was one on one side and most on the other.
There are only 3 or 4 along the
Yeah,
whole
it's only
stretch.
3 or
There are
4.
very few.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You good?
All right. I
Thank
think
you.
we're good. So what I just asked for, put it in the file after some plan that depicts where these curb cuts are supposed to be.
We made note.
Fantastic. All right, we can close the hearing, then that can get filed on the papers. Would anybody in the general population probably want to speak to this application? Seeing none, okay. You guys good? Good? Good. That's it, okay. With that said, entertain a motion to close the hearing. Adam makes a motion, looking for a second. George makes a second, all in favor? Fantastic. All right, folks, thank you, Lenny.
Thank you very much.
Right outside the door.
What was this one about?
hold on.
Is that right?
That's what they call the,
Oh,
Right. All right, next item on the application, next on the list. The next application is coastal site plan review number 185 Beason Boy, flood damage prevention application, number 197B as a boy, land filling regrading application, number 105B, PL 24-80, Stephen and Tracy Culliton. Did I close it up?
Yes.
Yep. Thank you. 21 Tokeneke Trail, proposal to raise the existing residence and construct a new single-family dwelling generally the same location. Construction of new driveways, patio areas, and pool and retaining walls, and perform related site development activities within regulated areas, including regrading of the property and installation of stormwater management and a new septic system. The 2.84 plus or minus acre subject property is located on the south side of Tokeneke Trail, approximately 850 feet west of its intersection with Runkenhage Road, and is shown on Assessor's map number 69 as lot 37 and located in the R1 zone. Gentlemen, what do we got?
This application was submitted under sections 810 and 820 of the Darien Zoning Regulations, under our coastal site plan and flood damage prevention regulations, as well as section 850, our land filling regrading regulations. The application was referred out to Joe Canis of Ty and Bond. Mr. Canis submitted comments for the record dated June 4th. The applicant's representative Land Tech, Andy Sumalides, submitted comments in response to Mr. Canis's comments on June 20th, and today we received correspondence from Mr. Canis that Land Tech had addressed all of his outstanding comments. The application was also referred out to the Health Department. The Director of Health, Mr. Knopf, submitted comments for the record dated May 20th, just noting that health approval is required from his department. And the application was also referred out to Connecticut Deep. We received comments from that agency on June 21st. The applicant's representative, Andy Sumalides from Land Tech, is here this evening to present the application and answer any questions you have.
Andy, welcome.
Good evening. I do have a nip to pick before we go there. I rarely look at these things, but I don't see a property owner on Runkenhage that I would expect to have been notified. I think it's at 4 Runkenhage, known as the commune of St. Brigida. I know why, because they're not on tax rolls.
There's no assessor's card. There must be an assessor's card for them.
Well, probably is a card, yeah.
Let's see.
So it's 850 feet from Runkenhage Road, right?
Yeah, but they've noticed some other people on Runkenhage.
Let me take a look at the map here that we have.
Anyway, I'm confident they're not going to raise an issue, but.
Your client?
Yeah.
There you go. You didn't tell the sisters and another? Actually, it's not a good sign. That's the first guy you told. God.
I don't know. Anyway, okay, just need to be careful about that.
Yeah, that is fun.
Mm-hmm.
That is fun.
No. Anyway, I'm not.
We'll take a look at that. Okay.
Yeah.
Good evening. For the record, Andy Sumalides. I'm a professional engineer and principal at Land Tech. Also with me tonight is Mark Goodwin, a principal with Bindfield Architects. So the subject property is 21 Tokeneke Trail. A few weeks ago, you guys heard of our presentation on 23, I should say, for the driveway. So they kind of were one property at one point historically, and now we're looking to redevelop 21 Tokeneke currently has a 4-bedroom small, cottage on the property. It's, about 1,600 square feet. But there's extensive impervious areas associated with it because the driveway used to cut through 21 to get to 23. So there's roughly about 10,000 plus square feet of existing impervious surfaces on this piece of property, even though it's a fairly small home. The property is serviced by septic. The current septic is in this general vicinity. No stormwater improvements are currently on the property. And the proposal is to tear down, raise the house, a good portion of the driveway. We're looking to maintain the entrance and build a new single-family residence.
Did Maybell also own 25? Or just 21 and 23?
Just 21 and 23. I don't think you ever owned 25. Under proposed conditions, we're utilizing the existing curb cut. Maybe that's why Mr. DeVito didn't show up today. So we don't need his approval from the association. We're maintaining that curb cut and working off of that to get a driveway to a garage here and a circular front. Parking court, the proposed house is 6 bedrooms. It's about 7,000 square feet. Again, serviced by on-site septic. The septic is located in the southwest corner of the property. North is to the right. This septic location was also approved, had received health approval in the same location as an application in 2022 for a new single-family residence. Yeah, so we feel fairly confident of that septic location.
How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms in this thing? You said 6 bedrooms? You said bathrooms?
6 bedrooms, 6.5 bath.
6 full, 1 half?
Yep. The majority of the house, obviously the garage is on slab. A good portion of the house is just crawl space. There is a small portion of this back half of the house that's full basement that's can't be finished space because we're within the flood zone. In blue here, you can see is the flood zone. There's multiple flood zones on this property. From this blue line towards Scotts Cove and out to Long Island is high velocity. In between these two is what's called a moderate wave action, which is the Limois, which is 1.5 to 3 foot waves. And anything beyond that is, beyond this line this way, is just coastal AE, elevation 13. The first floor of this proposed house is elevation 19, well above the base flood elevation. This lower little level here that's used just for storage is equipped with flood vents. The necessary flood vents required by FEMA. As I mentioned, the rest of the space is well above the base flood elevation and is just a crawl space.
So that section's probably where they keep the kayaks and all that good stuff?
Exactly. There was a new dock that was recently constructed on this piece of property also a few years ago. There is a small pool, 14 by 35 pool off the rear of this house as well.
This says 16.5 by 45. That's because that's the deck.
Where is that?
Are you looking at the new revised one?
There's the new plan.
The revised one. What's your take on that?
There's a revision date, it should be
On May 16th.
upper right, there's a revision of June 14th.
Okay. I got no revisions.
It's very similar other than, so I could tell you quick changes,
Fine,
yeah.
just-
Yeah, we just made the pool slightly smaller. And part of the reasoning for that is actually, this green line is the tidal wetland line. We were closer to these tidal wetlands with our driveway parking to get into our garage. By making the pool smaller, we were able to shift the house further over away from those tidal wetlands. We were, in that original plan, we were 10 feet off the tidal wetlands, which Deep commented on and said that's okay as long as you provide the necessary planting buffer. In our first application, we did have a planted buffer here, but since we pushed this 10 feet over, we then removed the buffer from here. We are open to still keeping that buffer if that's required, but since we pushed this everything further away, we felt like the buffer isn't necessary anymore. We were disturbing pretty close up to the wetland before. In this application, our closest disturbance is 20 feet, where before we were 5 feet.
Yeah, 'cause my plan's got the flood zone goes right through the cul-de-sac, so through the center of your.
Right, so you could see how much it shifted over.
So you really just moved the cul-de-sac over, because you didn't move over the kayak storage.
Yeah, this whole site plan shifted over. So
Yeah,
you could
the kayak storage section didn't.
This?
Yeah, no, the kayak storage, the little part that sticks out.
This thing?
Bingo. That didn't,
Yeah, it moved 10 feet.
not on it, but don't worry about it.
Okay.
It's fine.
So we are building a FEMA compliant house. In terms of drainage, This proposal has about 17,000 square feet of impervious, and it is all being handled, all of the roof runoff is being collected, various catch basins in the driveway, then gets piped to a 40-unit underground detention system in this area to treat the water quality volume. So we're providing the necessary water quality for 1 inch of runoff, all those new impervious surfaces. So that basically is what we're proposing. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Did the spa go away?
No, they're still here.
Still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Any stone walls or permanent walls being built?
No, I mean, it has a really pretty nice entrance now, so we're kind of maintaining a lot of that frontage as is.
Okay.
There is a wall here. It's a retaining wall because we're driving up now in an effort to minimize any rock excavation. We're not looking to do any rock excavation or blasting here because we're doing crawl space. We're so much higher than the existing. I think the previous proposal, if you guys recall, was in this general area, and there was a decent amount of rock ex that was required for that. So we're really looking to do minimal to zero rock excavation for the construction of this this house.
Tim, what's going on all the way to the left where you have step downs?
This here,
Yeah.
this is septic, and because of shallow ledge and soil
That's a
conditions,
leaching field below.
we're grading. We're filling this in a bit so the septic can meet requirements of separating distance from ledge.
So that's a step down, right? It says 26, 25, 24.
Yeah, this slopes down. There's an existing wall here.
Say that wall
That will
is
keep.
existing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we're keeping that existing wall, and we're just sloping up to match up to grade up here. So we create a little bit of a flat spot here. You have about 3 feet of filling over this section, and then it slopes down.
Very flat areas for the kids to play lacrosse.
Yeah, right here. We just talked about this actually out there. I was like, this area right here is actually a nice flat area. Once you come in off to the left, this is a nice flat area.
If you're in Tokeneke, you have a lacrosse court in your front yard.
No, they don't.
It's too little. It's a soccer ball.
Plenty of houses have them.
Andy, the Maybell property, just show where that new driveway is on the left.
Sure, it's right here.
Just right on the edge there, right?
Yeah, it's right through here.
That new
So
driveway.
that kind of serpentines through here. That new drive.
That's 23.
Yeah, 23.
Does that touch your property or no? It's
No.
a couple feet off.
No, it's off.
Okay.
Completely off.
Jamie, any questions?
No, they were answered, thanks.
George?
I don't think so. Nope, thank you.
So it's a 6-bedroom, 6.5 bathroom house, 7,000 square feet, right? The front door, where's the front door to this thing?
You want to see the architecture?
It's right with these pads.
got a nice
Yeah, there's a pergola in
Pretty
the front door
rendering in the
area.
front.
To give it
There you go.
a
The
prominence.
front door's right here. And there's another side door here that gets you into this structure. This structure is actually stepped up, as you can see. So this is elevation 19, this is elevation 22.
That other structure, that's, the pool's behind that?
Pool's behind this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like a pool, there's like, pool house spill out to the pool area.
Gotcha.
And then this is the main living, this is your garage. And then this is a 1-story structure, this is a 2-story structure where all your bedrooms are, over the garage and then this main section of the house. So this is open, 2-story open.
Wow, that's a great room. That's what
Yeah.
the pool table is.
And then, let me see, if there's any other renderings.
Pickleball court.
That kid's playing, those kids are playing dice. I've never figured that out. I would guess.
And this little thing that juts out is a cantilevered 1-story. And this is the master that has like a deck over it, open. And this is your kayak storage underneath that you were talking about.
Yep. Who's gonna have that? Okay.
I've got one question.
Let me just jump to
Okay,
George
sure.
first.
Go ahead.
You
No,
swish?
I'm fine.
Good, bro.
Connecticut Deep's second comments about there is not a planting plan with this. Is that because you shifted it and then it's not required? Is that the reason that that satisfies this request, or do we need a planting plan?
So originally, we had this much closer.
Yeah.
And that's the plan the chair has in front of him, so you could see how much closer it was. When we shifted it over, we removed that planting plan. So Deep never saw this plan. Deep saw that plan with the
see.
planting plan.
Does it need to be?
We're more than happy to keep that planting plan, that planted buffer, I should say, around this corner. You can see on that map, there was a,
Right, because you had said it will be planted with salt-tolerant grass.
right, we didn't give them specific shrubs and that's what Deep was looking for, like a specific type of, we just said salt-tolerant grasses with a planted buffer.
So,
A 10-foot
we
buffer.
don't really planting plants, that's to really visible.
Right, that's just
Property.
Deep wanted it.
Right, they wanted us to delineate the type of species rather than just salt-tolerant grasses.
Do you
Give
have a
them specific-
date on your C10 when it was last?
It looks like, yeah, the deep was after, but it must have been before.
Because my only concern is the blue line, the flood elevation you have that goes around the cul-de-sac and through the kayak area, that line. If you go all the way back to your original proposed site plan, so the
Mhm.
very first one that you submitted, that that line also kind of goes right through the kayak area. So it doesn't look like that kayak area was shifted at all. It looks like you moved the cul-de-sac, right? Because on the original plans, that line is about 3-4 feet into the
cul-de-sac.
cul-de-sac, and it's been moved out, but it doesn't look like it's been shifted at all in terms of the cantilevered area.
I think it actually has, because if you look at the low point of this, see that's the low point there? Now, if you look at that, the low point, that
Yeah.
corner matches
See
up
that,
here.
it touches the corner.
This is the original.
Mm-hmm, that's what I want.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, looks like it moved,
Did move?
yeah.
Doesn't
because
look like
the-
it.
the-
Yeah, we took this whole thing and shifted it over.
Yeah. See the low point?
That's what mine looks like.
Yeah,
Maybe this
right, the
didn't
low
go
point
with
there.
it when we shifted it, but it should have. I mean, I don't have it to compare, but,
It's okay.
yeah.
I mean, you can put a planting plan if you want to without.
Yeah, so I'm just making sure we don't need it because Deep said it. and-
Or you could just say, just make it a kind of a condition, give us a detailed, just to that little corner area, right?
Yeah, it was just this corner that Deep saw, and they just wanted the species.
Do you have it? Do you have it already made?
No, I can make one and send it to staff for review.
Do that.
Make it a condition that
Yeah.
we keep that planted
Yeah,
buffer.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're fine with making that a condition and
That's
keep
the
that
only
10-foot
real-
planted buffer.
I mean, Candace came back with no additional comments as well. I think we should say that.
And he saw this.
And he saw the revised
Right.
plan. So, I mean, he can, just like the other application, I guess he'll submit a letter, we can include in the file, even though he's verbally told you it's fine.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're fine with that. I'm sure we're gonna hire West out and do a pretty extensive planted plan.
Right, yeah. The lady that does it was sitting right there, but she
Yeah.
had said, Lieutenant, the big guy came in. Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone's cool? Anyone from general public like to speak to this application? Seeing none, entertain a motion to close. You're good? You guys are good? Entertain a motion to close. Adam makes a motion. Jamie's making a second. All in favor? Great. So you just gotta get us a planting plan, stick that in front of it.
And we'll check the
Yeah, no rush
notices.
on that.
Yeah.
We don't
Did
wanna-
you square with the notices?
No,
Oh, you
I'll
don't?
check it.
Okay.
I came up with it.
Are you guys on in August?
What's that?
Are you on in August?
Kidding me?
The W is there.
So this is
The commission meets July 30th,
July 30th.
so there's
There's a
a
chance.
chance that the commission deliberates the
No,
night.
I'm just wondering timing.
And decides on the 30th.
Assuming the notice is correct.
I'll give you December once in a while. August? David Genevieve's dragged us back August 30th one year. That was
Thank you, guys.
See ya.
all right. Next item, John Hillis is in the house. I see him sitting
It's been a
here.
while.
No, that's,
Been working the only one. Next item on the agenda, closed sale site plan review, Number 253, Bees and Boy Flood Zone Prevention Application, number 329C, PL 24-72, Michael Gaudino and Jeanmarie Hicks at 19 Rushon Road. Proposal to construct and install a dock consisting of a fixed ramp, pier, and platform, and perform related site development activities within regulated areas. The 2.18 plus or minus subject property is located on the north side of Brush Island Road, approximately 1,150 feet north of its intersection with Nearwater Lane. It is shown on Assessor's map number 56 as lot 20 in the R1 zone. Jeremy, what do we got?
This application was submitted under section 810 and 820 of the Darien Zoning Regulations, our coastal site plan and flood damage prevention regulations. The application was referred out to Joe Canis of Ty and Bond. Mr. Canis submitted comments for the record dated June 11th. Mr. Canis had several comments regarding sediment and erosion controls, as well as the need for or desire for a flood contingency plan. The application was also referred out to Westcog. Westcog submitted comments for the record dated May 24th, in which they state the opinion of Westcog staff is the proposal is of local interest with minimal intermunicipal impact. Therefore, it is not being forwarded to adjacent municipalities, and the regional staff is making no comment. Lastly, the application was referred out to Connecticut Deep. Deep submitted comments for the record dated June 21st. This application also went before the Environmental Protection Commission. The EPC issued approvals for the dock on May 1st under EPC 33-2023. The applicant's representative, John Hiltz, is here this evening to present the application.
Hey Fred, I didn't see Joe's letter in the online at all, or any responses to him.
June 11th?
Nothing in here.
There aren't any.
We got Westcog Deep and we've got the EPC, that's it.
Okay, we're gonna have to get those uploaded to the application then.
You have a paper copy?
Yeah, I got one right
Yeah.
here.
We can just take a look at it.
I didn't get it in my own cash. Welcome, John.
Good evening. For the record, John Hiltz for the applicants.
Thank you, sir.
Do you want to look at those comments before we talk about this, or? I just for the record, I did not receive anything regarding the Ty and Bond comments either, so. If you'd like to discuss them, I'm sure we can discuss them now, but.
That's Joe's letter?
Yeah, I mean, they're two minor comments on it, it looks like. I'm sure we can maybe make it a condition of approval.
Yeah, that's what Fred just went through. Okay, he writes this two-page memo, right? And the first page and a half is all background. Soil testing is not required, so no test measures were done. The meter mat soil proposed sediment and erosion controls for all work proposed from the landward-based construction activities. Can you do that on the plan and submit it later?
I won't have to because we're doing it by barge. So we're not, this was discussed extensively at the EPC, by the way, and basically the only landward construction activity is probably guys walking down from the driveway once everything's been, the piles have been driven and everything, probably doing like the finishing touches, so.
So you're putting the piles in from the barge?
Yes,
from
sir.
the barge side?
Yep.
Wow,
Yeah.
good for you.
Yeah.
Then the
Yeah,
next
actually,
page-
just if anybody's interested, G&C Marine is actually in Holly Pond. They went in today, so I don't think they'll be doing this project then, but they called me up and they said, we're in Holly Pond if you need anything. I said, okay. They made it over the dam, so.
We could tell Wilder Gleason start going by barge. You keep saying you
Yeah,
can't do it.
it depends, I would assume, on the situation. Holly Pond's a little tricky
It's-
because
You gotta go
you
over
gotta
the dam.
play the tides a little bit.
Gary Wetmore, the owner, said that he generally doesn't like to do it unless the predicted tide is 8 feet above mean low water. His son, Charlie, said, well, we got a 7-4 tide, I think we can make it. And they did. So, the optimism of youth. In any event, yeah.
Let me give you the second, I'm gonna give you the next item.
Yeah.
Develop a flood contingency plan to describe measures that will be taken during construction to ensure debris, stockpiles, construction materials, etc. will not be swept away from the site.
They'll be on a barge.
They'll be on a barge.
So, if the water gets high, so will the barge. So I think we'll be good in that regard.
So what do you want to say, not applicable
Yeah.
on both to Candace
Yeah.
Bay?
Sure.
Okay. So your time bond stuff's taken care of.
Okay.
Okay, this guy's a pro. How many,
It used to be a pro sometime.
yeah.
So
Okay.
in a nutshell, it's a very small dock. 4 pilings up on the upland. It's got a stairway leading up to it from grade. A ramp with struts extending off the ramp to secure the floating dock in place. The floating dock will have float stops on it so that when the tide does go down, the whole of the surface of the floating dock will not sit on the bottom. If you're familiar with the site, which I'm sure you are, it's tucked in there. It's way back behind the curve that goes around the Brush Island, so it's not subjected to any kind of substantial wave or wind activity.
It's on the left side or the right side when you're going in?
It's on the right side. Do you know where the land trust dock is when you're going in?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you go past that, you take a right up, and you go up the
It's
hill.
way back in there.
So, yeah, it's behind
Okay.
everything, yeah.
It's behind Scora's house.
Yeah,
Scora's on the road.
yeah.
Okay.
Would you say one more time how you keep it from being on the bottom of?
It basically has skids on the bottom of
Oh,
the
skids,
floating
yeah.
dock, so I mean, it's held, it will sit on the bottom.
Oh, yeah,
but
okay.
The entirety of the float doesn't bear on the substrate there, just the 2 skids.
Okay, thank you.
The
So
kids
our-
go this way.
Yeah.
And ultimately, our jurisdiction is the 4x11 piling supported timber pier. That really is.
I guess that's it, yeah, yeah.
What's
The
this?
steps and planting.
The steps and then the 4 piers. And what's this other thing? That's the 6x15 area for planting of 22-inch plug swamp milliweeds?
That was requested by the EPC,
The plantings.
plantings.
Well,
So I said, okay, I've never been asked to do a planting
Me neither.
before, but
Heck, look at that.
I
Is that
said.
what all this stuff is? All this piece?
It kind of is Coles to Newcastle, if you ask me, but if that's what it takes to get the dock built, I think we can find plugs and stick them in there, and the butterflies will be happy, so it's a good thing. I don't have a problem with it, neither does Mr. Gaudino.
Now, are all these trees, are those existing?
Yeah,
They're existing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You can see them on the internet. Okay, got it. Would anybody in the general public like to speak to this application? Seeing no one but many, we're good. Jamie, you okay?
I think we're fine. We put in the findings that we satisfy Candace's letter and we're done.
Yeah. Because is there a document that says now that you're coming in by
Yeah, I
barge?
said that.
if you review
The
the
narrative.
EPC,
The narrative.
yeah, I mean, that's basically, actually, if you look at the methodology that I've included, it should.
It says it in the narrative.
Yeah, the
The
narrative.
barge will access the site at high tide, withdraw deeper water.
Got it. Okay. Great, thank you.
All right.
You're good, right?
Yeah.
Okay, with that said, motion to close? Jay makes a motion. George makes a second. You go left, right. All in favor? 4-0. Thanks, cool. Thank you.
All right, good night, take care, everybody.
You too.
It's a,
You want this back?
Yeah, that would be great.
So you're just gonna have.
I'll upload it.
We kind of have Candace reply to himself.
Well, I mean, in this case, you might have missed that nuance in the narrative that would make it more obvious.
Maybe he thought it was like being shipped in on the barge and then placed on the land, and that was his concern, and then they would build it, instead of trucking it in.
Right.
I don't know.
Okay. You're a Yankee, you're a
Yeah, they're getting killed.
Yankee. Okay, that's the end of the public hearing. Let's go to the general meeting. Deliberations and possible decisions on the following applications. Proposed amendments to Darien Zoning Regulations, COZR number 5-2024 PL 24-69, put forth by the Darien Planning and Zoning Commission. Proposal to amend section 210 to include 2 new definitions for cannabis and cannabis establishments and delete existing section 1134 palliative marijuana dispensaries and production facilities, and replace it with a new section 1134 prohibiting cannabis established within the town. The public hearing closed on June 11, 2024. I watched this, I was not at this meeting because I was at my kids' lacrosse banquet, but I watched it on Vimeo, or on video. Okay, in our packets, we have a draft resolution. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, as we've talked about this numerous times, this has been going on since March of 2014, so over 10 years that we've not ever permitted this in our town. We've usually had unanimous support on every aspect. Questions, comments, typos, scrivener's errors in this one?
All good.
Okay. So with that said, I think the other 2 people were not here. I think I did watch the video and everyone was concluded on it.
That's correct.
So entertain a motion to accept the draft resolution as written. Adam makes the motion, looking for a second. Jamie makes a second. All those in favor?
4-0. Thank you.
Fantastic. So with the stroke of a pen or a typewriter or word processor, cannabis will not be allowed in our town.
I like you cleaned up an entire paragraph in 1 sentence.
Exactly.
Very
And to look at this, I will
Very
actually,
straightforward.
you guys did a
Very
fantastic job on this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
With all the research and all the background and all the stuff that you put in here, you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And everything else that was in here. So kudos to you guys, and we at the town are indebted. Next item on the agenda is proposed amendments to the Darien Zoning Regulations, COZR number 4-2024 PL 24-70, put forth by the Darien Planning and Zoning Commission. Proposal to create a new section 367 regulating the placement of fuel storage tanks. If a tank is to be placed in the front of a residence or commercial building, it must be underground. The public hearing closed on June 11, 2024. I also watched this hearing on Vimeo because I was not here and I was at my kids' lacrosse banquet. In our packets, we have a draft resolution relative to this. Any questions, comments, typos, and this thing everybody saw? The 2 things that I would like to add to this is if you look on page 2, paragraph 3, second line down. Is it what I wanted? Yeah. Well, I guess that really doesn't matter. It said principal residence or commercial building or side of the building if visible from the street. But really it matters later on in the regulation for on page 3. In A, section A, all above ground tanks shall be placed to the side of not visible from the street or behind the principal residence or commercial structure on property. The whole intent of this thing is to make them not visible from the street. If it's on the side and it's in front of a chimney on a corner, it's effectively visible from the street, which is kind of sort of what George was asking in the meeting. And you don't need to go to screening and all that. I know in my neighborhood, there's one that's clearly visible from the street. It was approved by Woody at the time because there was no reason not to approve it because the regulation was in place. My in-laws have theirs on the side of the building, but you cannot see it from the street. It's specifically put in the back. That's why I want it to be sure it's not visible from the street.
So that changed to 367A on page 3.
Yep, I'm adding 4 words.
Doesn't that kind of defeat this though? Because imagine the houses in the R13 zone, essentially the side, you could see all the way to the back of the house from the side, right? So if you're looking at the structure from the front, on both sides of it, you could see all the way to the back lot line. So then they could only put a tank in the back behind their house.
The houses go out, go back, go sideways. I mean, you don't want it, if it's in the front yard,
Right,
and
we're
it's
never
on the
getting
side of the
it.
building, it can be an inch off the front yard and you're still staring at it. You
Right,
know?
which is, I think, what we talked about
Yeah, we
at
had
the
an
last
extensive
meeting, where
conversation.
it couldn't be under the windows, as I said, basically, it could be on the side, just push back 1 foot. And everybody said, yes, that could be, but it still satisfied this because it's not in the front.
Yeah, I didn't
Couldn't
hear,
require screening.
And we
Yeah.
couldn't require screening. I mean, that's, my only concern with that change, it sounds like it's not a big deal, but on the houses that are gonna put it, that would have put it in the front or gonna put it on the side, even if they set it back 10 feet, right, from the front of the house, it's still visible from the front, then it's not good enough, so their only option would be to put it in the back somewhere,
or put it underground.
or put it underground.
Correct. You don't want to be able to see it from the street. That's the whole purpose of the whole regulation.
Yeah.
You can put it an inch off the front of the house, it's basically in the front lawn.
Yeah, I mean, this
Right,
is-
that's the only reason why we're doing this, is so you don't see it in the street. It's 100% aesthetics, you're gonna see it, if your house is to the left of that house with a tank, you're gonna see it at the house to the left. If it's not, if it's right there, it's in somebody's driveway, that's the whole reason behind it. So if we don't put it, that's not visible from the street in the front, then the whole thing's a waste of time. The other item that I don't understand is, and it came up in the meeting, is the grandfathering. If you have a setback issue for like a porch, and you're doing renovations to your house, you have to cure all of the non-conformities, right? So now, if this is a non-conformity and we change the law, you should make it become conforming, so that means the grandfather will go away. I mean, Mike Netter was the one that brought it up. He's ZBA. He sat on ZBA for a while. Every time you have something that's a non-conformity, you make it go away when the new application comes in. So why would you grandfather tanks that are in a bad spot in the first place? It doesn't make any sense to me. There's no grandfathering of anything in our town.
Unless the hardship continues, I
Correct. Correct.
Can justify.
Right, so the question is it, if a tank that has a limited lifespan, let's say,
Your example is
Right.
10 years.
Right.
My tank's 20 years old, but it's in the basement.
right, so if it's a house and the wall needs work, right, the argument is you could prop up the wall, right, and in essence replace it as is without encroaching any further. So the question here is, if you put a tank in the exact same spot, is that considered kind of maintenance? Or are we considering that, that's an all-new tank, any new tank needs to meet?
So your example in the meeting was fencing.
Or, right, fence
So
was the.
fencing is in the wrong spot on the property line, or on the wrong spot.
Or it's 6 feet high. What we've said is, if you have a non-conforming 6-foot-high fence in the front yard, you're allowed to replace it in situ, the exact same spot, exact same height. Which normally, if it was a new fence, we would say, no, you have to eliminate. So we've said, for fencing, you can replace it as is.
Right, but for porches and setbacks and window boxes, they go over, somebody comes in, they go right to ZBA.
I'll leave it up to the commission, how do you want to handle it?
I would not grandfather tanks in the wrong spot ever.
These are not structures, I don't suppose, right? They're not permanent, they're not built in. I'm not sure what difference that makes, I'm just throwing that out there
Right.
as to whether ZBA applies to something that's
They're
not a
like
structure.
quasi-permanent structures though, because they got lines that tie into the house. So it's not, they're not quite permanent, but they're not quite like
There's
a
an expense
fence.
associated, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird,
It's a fixture. No one commented on this application at all, not
That's
one
correct.
person. You know, so, I mean, we're leaders in the town, we say we know what's right. I've spoken to people, they don't want to see it from the street. You know, and there's, if there one exists and the thing goes, it has to be replaced, put it on the ground, put it in the back. I mean, I don't know who we're protecting that says, no, you want to keep it in the wrong spot and want to be able to see it in the street. It makes no sense. That's why we did
Or you
this whole thing.
can screen it, right? It can't be in front of the house, but as Adam said,
screen
if you
it.
put it to the side of the house, stick a tree or plant in front of it.
Right.
I mean, I think the only person we would be protecting is, imagine an emergency in the middle of winter where some tank has a leak because a tree branch falls on it, and they need to put a new one in to have their home heated.
Correct.
Their pipe's not
It's
freeze.
temporary. They do it temporary.
Okay. Yeah,
As soon as it hits,
How-
you get it. If your boiler blows, they'll put a temporary truck in your front yard, and it'll be there until the season comes in, or they can get it in there. If your tank blows, you got bigger problems than anything.
Right, well, I'm just saying, like, that's who we're protecting, like, the person who's like, okay, I gotta have an emergency new boiler put in, but I don't wanna spend an extra 30 grand blasting or rock hammering out my house to put this thing in. So I guess the solution there is screening.
It's a hardship too.
But then still, they don't have enough time to go to ZBA, right? Because it's
Understood.
freezing and it's there
Right,
in the heat.
understood, but that would be a temporary, if it happens, if a tree falls on it, which what your example was, you're gonna get a temporary, be able to do it immediately.
Okay, and then what, the building permit in town would issue you
That's all the time.
a
It's
6-month
the same,
temporary type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we have temporary signage in town, we have all kinds of temporary lights are in town.
Okay, that's who, I think that's who you're protecting when you say the grandfathered in clause. Not necessarily like the neighbors or anybody else, but the middle of winter, freak accident, you need heat in your house.
Correct, which is all temporary. So I don't know where, I would put those 4 words in here, that's not visible from the street. I don't know where we put in, this doesn't talk about grandfathering at all, the regulation. But if it's an illegal tank today, you're gonna get rid of it. Most people, to everybody's point, most people, no one wants to put it in their front yard.
No.
Right? In the bay, there's some are on the side yards, which we permitted, and they're all screened or wrapped in like white picket fence or white.
Gets a little
plastic
tricky
fences.
because sometimes if you're in the flood zone, they need to be
They'll lifted
elevated.
up. And most of those are oil tanks.
Yep.
You know, but to your point, everyone's switching to gas, and 99% of the time, it goes underground. I don't think you're gonna push back from anybody. I don't think we're harming anybody, and we're being consistent with not being visible from the street.
See, it doesn't go underground because you don't own the tanks when you do a conversion to gas. Paraco owns the tanks outside.
It goes either way. You can do.
But, right, you could buy it and you could put it in, but the quick way is for them to own the tanks and you pay them $10 a month for the tanks.
Right, and they put them in the back. That's what my in-laws do.
They put them
You can't see
somewhere.
the street. Go by 175 Hollow Tree Ridge Road. You can't see the tank. You can't see it.
I have to say, but people down the street put 2 in, and you can see them from the street.
Yeah,
But they're in the side, but they're fine.
Right, but you know what? That's not the purpose for it. That's the whole
Yeah.
reason why we're doing the regulations, so it's not visible from the street.
But if we're going to allow screening, so it's not visible from the street, even if it's on the side, I think we need to define that
Yeah,
because
we
it's
should
not
say
clear.
screening or
Right.
screened.
Right, but then do we need to define?
Right, the question is,
Screening, right.
I
visible
mean, these
from,
guys are great. They can say, yeah, it's certain items you can, is it visible from the street? Yeah, it's, you can see it. If it's not, you gotta, I mean, your example was you gotta look out the corner, and, you know, can you
Right.
see it?
right,
It's a
so
reasonable man theory. We're not to
the
define
person next
everything.
door might look out the side window and they might see it.
Right,
But
which
the
is
That's
Yeah,
not
but
the standard.
That's not the standard.
That's not the street. So the standard would be the street, the public street, where similarly, we talked about at the public hearing, the standard in Darien for boats is they must be screened from view.
And
And we-
my boat was in my side yard, and Jeremy called me up and said, your boat's illegal. Move it.
Right, because it's not
And I
screened
said,
from view.
okay, and they built Darien self-storage, and as soon as that thing opened, that boat was there, and it's never been back.
Right. So,
Because you can't see from the street.
right, we do get into just what we've talked about here tonight, where someone will call the office and say, my neighbor's boat is not screened from view. So we would go out, someone from our office, and take a look. Kind of the reasonable man. Yeah, it's behind a hedge, or it's in the garage, and when the garage door is closed, you can't, whatever. Or it's tucked behind something else. In our opinion, we disagree with you. And he says, what? From my bathroom window, I can see that, but, well, sorry, that's, so.
So not visible from the street.
Same standard as blight?
Blight is the same way, thank you, George, yes. So,
This is window, it doesn't make, but you go either spot, but I think it's easier here. So if I would amend it to add those 4 words at the end of side yard of not visible from the street.
So side of and not visible from the street or behind the principal residence, is that how it's worded?
I put in, yeah, I wrote it real quick. Shall be placed to the side of, not visible from the street,
comma,
or behind the principal residence or commercial structure on the property.
Rear lots are visible from streets.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too.
I mean, I don't think we're gonna get pushback from anybody, and we can go round and round and round, but these guys are reasonable, and Woody's reasonable, but if we don't give them the tools that they could put in their toolbox, then you're gonna see these things sticking up all over the place. And I do think there's gonna be more that show up.
now, what we've purposely done on page 1 is given ourselves a lead time for the effective date, which would give us time to reach out to the various installers, general public. So if there's people who are, pardon the pun, already in the pipeline for their permits or approvals, they have time to put them in, or the installers would then have time to tell people, hey, by the way, there's this new regulation, I can't put it where you want, I've got it, or you're gonna have to find a way to screen it, a hedge, a plant, a tree, a piece of fence.
If they're within the setbacks to bury it, do they need a special, not a special permit from us, but do they need a permit from the building department?
They would still need a permit, we would still look at it, if it's.
Do they need like a skim, like a
Yeah, they just-
survey and like that?
Usually what we tell people,
mark it
give us a
where it is.
survey, give us a little X or a little square. Yeah, if it's underground, all we're gonna check for is it in or near wetlands? Is it in the flood zone? And it's a 10-foot setback underground from a property line for the
No,
building.
I'm just thinking, you know, if you're replacing your furnace, now all of a sudden you have to go get a $2,000, $3,000 survey of your property to put an X on it to say where you're gonna bury it.
You can do it by hand.
Most,
You can take the tax map and take the tax map, which is online, and say the tank's gonna go, the house is here, and the tank's gonna go.
I'd say we've been pretty fortunate, 80% of the time we can dig out some kind of survey that's usable.
Okay.
10% of the time, we can use the town tax map, and if you have a big enough
Noted.
lot.
But we're not talking
it's fine.
as-built kind of stuff.
10% of the time, we've got to go out to the site, kind of look around, figure it out. So almost always, we can find a way to.
But it's workable without some huge
There,
burden.
there is the 1%, of
Yeah.
course, of, you know what, I cannot figure this out. You're
Right.
just gonna have to.
No, I'm not talking bleeding edge cases. I'm just talking your standard case. Like, we don't want to
80%
make
time.
replacing a furnace turn into twice as expensive
Right.
because
Oh,
we added a
absolutely.
bunch of weird red tape to it.
Yeah, usually the installers are pretty good about chasing down surveys somehow, some way. Sometimes we have to go to land records, sometimes.
If they're above ground, they don't have to come to you though, do they?
They do.
Oh, they do?
Same thing, has to meet the setbacks,
I see.
and flood zone and wetlands. So,
Okay. George, yes?
I'm just trying to think about the size of some tanks, you know, out of, a lot of pool heater tanks, I see double, what are they, 75-gallon tanks, it's a lot of tanks. But I guess we can figure out how to consolidate into one submarine type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pools are ridiculous.
I had kind of
Standard new
given up on
furnace
this.
gives you
I'm not for it.
285 tanks. My neighbor just got one.
85, yeah.
2 of them
So
for a
you-
furnace, for a
Oh,
furnace,
just for the furnace?
for a boiler in a house.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's, I think could be an issue.
You good? Add it?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
We didn't get any push, nobody cared. Nobody commented about it.
Nobody can, no one can, yes, I want to be able to see from the street.
Yeah, so.
There's not a person out there that said.
Well, nobody just came in and said, oh, I don't want to have this added to my blah, 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 so, yeah, let's add it.
And then the same with the grandfather.
Do we need to put that in on the,
It's not in here.
do we normally put
Is
that
it
in the
anywhere
regs?
else? I don't remember reading.
I guess we can clarify that in either a finding or as part of
I think you'd
a
have to
new
put it in the
section E,
regulation. Yeah.
a part of the regulation E, all replacement tanks must comply with
Must
this section.
conform to this, yeah. Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Or all new and replacement tanks must comply with this section.
Fantastic. All right, with that said, motion to approve as amended. Jamie makes a motion.
Sure we shouldn't see that? No? Okay.
Is that in 4 words and then
Yeah, all right. Okay.
George makes a second, all in favor?
Oh, now I'm making this.
You need your hand up. Done. Okay, thank you, folks.
Amendment passes.
Who made the motion on that?
Jamie.
Jamie and
Jamie
George
makes,
seconded.
George makes a second. It was approved unanimously. Next item on the agenda, coastal site plan review number 163D, landfilling and regrading application, landfilling and excavating and regrading application, number 57C, PL 24-60, Mark and Margaret Maybell at 23 Tokeneke Trail. Proposal to fill and regrade in association with the construction of a new driveway and parking area and perform related site development activities within regulated areas, including installation of stormwater management. The public hearing closed on June 4th, 2024. In our packets, we got a draft resolution on this item. The only thing that popped out to me is after number 11, talks about the public hearing, members and whatnot, we want to add the point about the gentleman who came from the association and said they needed a curb cut.
We put it in finding E.
You put it at the end.
In E, part number 2. Street opening curb cut permit from the Tokeneke Association for new driveway on Tokeneke Trail.
Right, but the part that it said the public hearing, we didn't say that the guy
Yeah,
from spoke.
spoke and said anything.
What else? This is, it's kind of outside this thing, but I'm gonna ask a question anyway. They're taking out ledge rock, and they're putting in the driveway where the ledge rock is. The ledge rock was impervious anyway. So why are we saying the impervious is going up, and they're putting a driveway over a rock instead of going like that, it's coming through? I mean,
Yeah, it's you know,
material,
that came,
but it's just-
Because they're adding more driveway to the top of where they're blasting out the rock.
I think one of the concerns was the new driveway flows down to Tokeneke Trail.
Is that what the 3,100 square feet is?
And that's one of the concerns that Andy put the swale on the, I'll call it the left side of the driveway to collect some of the runoff, treat it before it gets down into Tokeneke Trail. More of a water quality thing.
Okay,
But
that's all.
you're correct, that the amount of impervious surface is probably
That's not
minimal.
Because you're taking out a ledge rock,
You're
it's impervious anyway.
changing rock with an asphalt driveway.
Correct, yeah.
This thing's gonna be like the Grand Canyon of driveways.
It is
I was
going to be.
Running past it today, looking at it, it's like a good 25 feet. It's gonna be like
Yeah,
straight
it's
on the
gonna-
walls.
And it'll be interesting to see which happens first, that driveway or this house coming down and the
I
replacement.
sure hope the driveway does, because they're gonna build that house, and then it's
They're
gonna
gonna
crack
be-
like crazy, because that's
The
one sheet of ledge throughout the whole property.
Yeah,
The thing is like 90% rock.
They would pour the foundation, it's gonna be like loose and shaking
Yeah.
for 2 days.
Glass.
So do you want to add a section, just a line in there that said that the, you know, person from the public came with the vice president of the association? It was,
Whose name is
um,
Mr. DeVita.
yeah, not.
Jack DeVita.
Jack DeVita, not Larry DeVita.
Jack DeVita of Tokeneke Association.
He's not the president, he was just the.
I think he was the chair of the
Roads Committee or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
They're doing a terrible job replacing the water down there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
they're
comment
doing
on that.
very well.
It's awful, like it's the worst paving job I've
Maybe
ever
temporary,
seen.
though.
They were
Maybe
gonna
they'll let it settle and-
rip it all up and redo it again?
So anything else inside here besides adding that? We're good?
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, looking for a motion to approve as amended. Adam makes the motion, Jamie makes the second, all in favor? 4-0. Fantastic. 9:36, I was gonna work tonight. Deliberations only on any public hearings closed on June 25th. I would punt that to another night. It's already 10:30 now, we've been here for 2.5
Sure.
hours. Great.
That's not the one.
Approval of minutes is the next item on here. We have minutes from June 11th. Was I here?
No.
Yeah, I was not here.
We only
This
have
is the one I
3 people
watched on
that-
TV.
Oh, you watched it? That's right, you just watched it earlier today.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing on TV.
It was a quick meeting.
45 minutes, and you were talking it at the end, trying to get to, what were you trying to get to, 45 minutes or 46?
I wanted to get to 8:30 so I can, kids be in bed.
And I knew you would say, see, honey, see what he just said?
Yeah.
I never said that. So the minutes was about the public hearing put forth for the cannabis.
Yeah.
Public hearing for the some tanks, the fuel tanks.
We just saw.
The new drive-through restaurant that's gonna come up.
Yeah, it looks
And that was pretty much it. Questions, typos, comments, scrivener's errors on this one?
good.
No, look good?
Yep.
Okay, looking for a motion to approve as submitted.
Sure.
George makes a motion, looking for a second. Adam makes a second, those in favor? I can vote on this, right?
Yeah, if you watched it, yep.
I watched it. All right. Chairman's report, no report for tonight. Director's report, anything special?
No, nothing special. No meeting next week, which is the 2nd of July. We'll be meeting on the 9th and the 16th. The 9th, the main event on the 9th will be the change of zoning regulation proposal put forth for Thorndale Circle. George and Steve are recused, so it'll be Amy, Adam, Mike, and Amy. Also that night, they're going to be looking at a new parking lot for where the farm is downtown.
On that same night?
Same night. And
It's not a farm, it's a garden.
the garden.
If that's not a farm, but that's a barn,
That's really stretching the definition of a residential structure.
You narrow on one and you wide on another.
And then
There
the
was a guy sleeping
16th,
on the ground at one point 50 years ago, so yeah, it's a house.
16th is going to be dedicated almost exclusively to the car wash where Bertucci's is.
Oh,
So that'll be.
they got their traffic light?
No, they did not get the traffic
Oh.
light, so they're coming back.
Ah,
And then we meet on the 30th, which hopefully will be the last meeting before August break.
oh,
July 30th.
July 50/50 as of now.
Okay.
Good for you.
Birthday's the next day.
We could turn 39 or something?
God, I wish.
Jesus.
Right by the age of 42.
Anything special on that one?
July 30th is going to be everything that's left, so depending
Okay.
if hearings get continued,
Okay.
we have a couple docs on that for that night. We have regrading on Greenleaf, want to put in a small sport court. We have maybe another sport court. So we'll see what ends up. It could be a continuation of the car wash if it needs to be continued. And we hope to have a number of draft resolutions that night to avoid meeting in August.
What's new about the car wash?
Just I think they shifted driveways a little
Just no light,
and no light.
and so the drive in has probably changed slightly.
Yeah. But I think the concept is.
They got an
generally the same.
updated traffic report, or updated something?
Fred, I
They're gonna
assume
need
there
the-
must be a traffic.
They're gonna
And so
need
we
the
have our
traffic report
guys,
without the
Joe
light there.
Joe
Right.
Canis looking at it, and Greg Del Rio will be here as well as a peer reviewer.
Yeah, it's really great that, well,
Yeah.
they'll have to do something. Okay.
So it's a full night, it's 16th, and we'll take it from there.
Any other business? Okay, with that said or not said, looking for a motion to adjourn? Mike Denner's not here. Ooh, Jamie makes it. Look at that, out of the box. Looking for a second, George makes a second, all in favor? 4-0. Means adjourned. Thank you, TV 79. Thank you, Sarah. Karen.